Welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel. We're starting off with the cracking of some cans, even though Newcastle just drew 2-2 at home to relegation-threatened West Ham United. My name's Emile Franchi. I'm joined today by a regular Stephen Best.
The most regular.
As regular as they come. We've also got Matty, who has appeared on the fan cams before.
Yeah, hello.
Hello,
Glad to be in such good company.
Yeah, and a Twitter legend, Johnny Sharples, is with us today as well.
Thank you very much.
It's very nice to have you with us, lads. Some big signings, I'm sure you'll agree. But yeah, this game, it was an interesting one. Newcastle come out of it with a point. Bestie, I'll start with you, mate. Is that what you expected from that game? Did you think a point was what we were going in for?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think the way the last kind of 30 minutes played out would suggest that that's all that they really wanted, to be honest with you. I mean, West Ham had a good result, a really good result against Chelsea on Wednesday, Thursday, was it, whenever it was. Playing to keep their Premier League status, Newcastle are all but safe now. So, yeah, I think the draw's probably, maybe it's not what they went for, but it was a pretty likely outcome, I think.
Yeah, it certainly feels like the foot was off the gas slightly, I would say. Johnny, do you think that the players were thinking about a potential staycation at this point?
You'd hope not. I think some of them have still got to play for next season as well. I think Joelinton's got to play for his place. I think the lads that are on loan have got to play for whether they stay in Newcastle next season or whether they get a move elsewhere. So you'd hope that they aren't. But I think, like Bestie touched on, the performance towards the end of it, I think you could tell that one of us was safe and one of us was still trying to keep their heads above the water in West Ham. So, you know, you hope that this isn't how it's going to play out for the rest of the season, that every match is just going to be us just playing out our, necessities, and the other teams are going for it, because it won't be a very happy ending to the season, I think, with some of the fixtures we've got coming up.
It did seem like it was a classic Newcastle performance. I'm not sure if maybe someone snuck into the East stand to affect the result there with a quick boo or that. But Matty, what do you reckon? Was this a disappointment, or should we have be quite happy with that?
It's so strange at this point where we find ourselves in the season now, not just in terms of football, but in life in general. Like, since the restart, you start with that Sheffield United result, brought back down to earth with a 1-1 against Villa, where you sort of surrender a lead. Then you go and do brilliant things against Bournemouth, an abject Bournemouth side, as a lot of people would point out, but we still did well. And then we play West Ham, and, you go down twice. You bring it back, you start thinking, well, maybe we'll take that. And just like where we are in the season right now, it's a strange time. If we were at St James's Park and walking away from the game, you might be upset because West Ham are relegation threatened. But right now, you look on the grand scheme of things, 4 games, no losses, scored in every game we've played in. It could be miles worse, but it's strange that I reckon if the times in general were different, we might be upset with a 2-2 draw at home to West Ham and a 1-1 draw at home to Aston Villa.
That's quite the analogy there. Just Newcastle summing up everyone's feelings at the moment, I think. But it didn't start well, this game, did it? Bestie, I mean, what was the first word that came out of your mouth when Lascelles missed that ball?
It was just so... I didn't say much because I had my son on me at the time. So,
Sugar.
It was... I've been singing Mikel Antonio's praises for weeks now.
Yes.
I think I put it in on Twitter this week after the Chelsea game. And I did the same with Welbeck last night, and someone said, he's going to score next time we play Watford. And of course, Antonio, was it 3 minutes?
Something like that, 3 or 4, yeah.
I mean, it was a dreadful mistake by Lascelles. It was similar to the Sheffield, very, very similar to the Sheffield United one the other week, but I don't know. It's probably not a good thing to say on a review. I find it hard with that bother, to be honest with you. Yeah, I've got my flip flops on as well, like so.
It certainly did feel like the response was good. That early mistake was forgotten about, which really helped Newcastle in the game. But it was a great team goal, Johnny. Do you think that was a real sign of some of the stuff that we can be playing?
I think so. And there were a few instances throughout the match where those, Alan Saint-Maximin, Almiron, Shelvey, Gale, and Joelinton teamed up quite well and passed it around quite a bit. And there were some nice touches in a few different build-ups. And I think Emil Kraft getting that far forward was surprised he didn't have a nosebleed after that. I think his performances in the last couple of matches have been really good. And I think switching to a back four has benefited him more than anybody else, I think, in the team, that he can get in now and he can show that he's, defensively capable in comparison to Manquillo and Yedlin. But yeah, when he got that far forward, panic stations a bit because you don't know what he's capable of. But then he put in the perfect ball in the end. And I think, yeah, it was a good team goal. I think Almiron deserved that, and he had a couple of other bits and pieces. But he's been good without anything really happening for him in the other matches, I think. So it was good to see him get on the score sheet as well.
Yeah, we've got to see the infectious smile as well, which is always nice from Miguel. But yeah, Emil Kraft's an interesting one because he's kind of got forward quite a lot this season. We've seen some horrendous stuff as well. But Matty, some people were saying that the four at the back worked better for him than a wing back role. Do you think that we saw or we are seeing more better performances from him because of that?
Yeah, definitely. Being the consummate professional that I am, I actually made some notes during the match. There you go, because I was that like, oh God, I'm going to be in such good company. I'm going to have to make some notes. But no, I mean, just to touch before we talked about Kraft, talking about Antonio. I mean, I looked at his name on the team sheet and thought he's going to be the only guy who's going to cause our issues. And he's never going to score an easier goal, ironically. Fornell's found far too much space in the middle of the park, and but Lascelles should be clearing that. But like you said, we replied well. And when I see Kraft's name on the Newcastle team sheet, it worries me. It genuinely does. Like, I just think what I've seen of him, he's not very good. But like you said, he's played in a formation that probably doesn't suit him. Whether that back four just gives him a bit more structure. But funny enough, he gets forward more in that back four. He's put a brilliant ball in for that first goal. And then in the second half, he just seemed to be still bombing on a bit. So whether it just suits him more, I'm not too sure. But it certainly seems that the last game, he was okay. Yeah, I wouldn't say he was brilliant, but he was okay. But this game, probably his best game in a black and white shirt, I would say.
Yeah, Warcraft at it again, which is always nice to see. Now, one thing I did notice is that, I don't know if it's just me, but every time you compare a player to Declan Rice, that player seems to go off injured. And it happened with Longstaff. It's now happened with Isaac Hayden. What did you think? Did that affect the match too much with Hayden going off, Bestie? Do you think Bentaleb filled that role pretty well?
I thought Bentaleb didn't look too bad when he came on, to be honest with you. I think
he's tidy.
He is. He controls the ball well. I think he probably offers a little bit more than Hayden going forward. Although I don't think we'll have that much in the way of end product from him just yet. I mean, but again, it's kind of been a weird season. It's been hard for him to maybe settle. Same as Lazaro, and Lazaro doesn't really seem to me as if his family's placed in the squad yet. I thought he did well when he came on against Bournemouth midweek, but he's still, is he a wing back? Is he a winger? Can he? I'm not too sure. But yeah, I thought Bentaleb, I thought he looked all right. I mean, there was a period in the second half, about 75 minutes gone, where we kept the ball for 2 or 3 minutes, just passing it round the back four. Bentaleb got involved a couple of times. Then in the end, Shelvey played it forward and we lost it. And I think Bentaleb seems to be, he seems to be pretty in tune with them. I quite like him.
Yeah, certainly filling that gap. Is it a worry for you, Johnny, going forward with Hayden potentially being out for the next game? I know it's against Man City, but still.
Yeah, I think Hayden's the player that some of us like to pretend that Perch was, in that he gives his absolute everything every game, but he's that cut above what Perch was as well. And I think to turn around what he has done from when he wanted to leave and he got that stupid red card in the midst of when he wanted to. He was brought on at right back and didn't want to play there, and he didn't really get the club anymore. Yeah, and I think that was a wake-up call for him, and I think he realised that he had to step it up, and he couldn't be as petulant as perhaps he was in that situation. And I think he's really cemented his place above quite a lot of the. I think Longstaff's, after a brilliant start when he first came into the team, sort of tailed off a bit, and I think Hayden's really grasped that opportunity to be Shelvey's first choice partner. And I think if we have to break up that relationship between those two and probably bring Longstaff back in if he's available, then it might get, like you say, it's against Man City, so you can't really go in expecting too much, but I think it could disrupt what has been a good start to our restart so far. But I think Hayden's been brilliant. He was brilliant before he got taken off today, so yeah, it's a shame for him as well as the team, really.
Yeah, so he certainly. Sorry, go on, Matty.
Just a funny one. I mean, we talk about the centre mid partnership, and obviously Hayden has been fantastic since he came back, and you need a foil for Shelvey because what you think about him, he's a great pass for the ball, but there's young Matty Longstaff there as well, and there's all this being made about we need to keep him on, we need to get him to sign a contract. Are we going to play him? Are we going to play him? I mean, what do we think about him as a player? Do we play him against City? You know, and I think a kid like him, he wants to play. So if Hayden's going to be injured, do we start putting him alongside Shelvey? I'm not saying that's a perfect foil for each other, but it's one to think about, because if we want to keep him, he needs to play.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think with Hayden, it does feel like he's a bit of a captain in waiting. I know he's not the deputy to Lascelles, but he's certainly got that about him, the way that he speaks to Bruce on the sidelines. I remember well that he was one of the ones that went over and told Bruce that something just wasn't working early in the season. So it's just one of those things. But yeah, I mean, Matty Longstaff, Bestie, do you reckon he could fill that gap, or do you not rate him against the bigger clubs, even though Manchester seems to be his speciality?
Yeah, his first couple of goals were against Man United, weren't they? I think as the season goes on, I mean, they're on a massive, I think, 5-6 games left, maybe. I think, especially as players, inevitably will kind of start to feel a little bit and start to feel it. I think you will see more of Matty Longstaff as the season goes on. Maybe it wouldn't have been the ideal scenario to bring him in against Manchester City. But is that a free hit? Newcastle, or if Liverpool beat Villa today, Newcastle are safe. So why not? Give him a go. You never know. You don't know.
You do worry sort of whether it's a bit of brinkmanship with the management and Longstaff, and they're saying he won't play until he signs his contract, but he won't sign a contract unless he plays. So I guess it's trying to find that middle ground between whether you play him and say, look, we're willing to give you the opportunities, or whether you say you don't play until you sign the contract. He never signs it. We never get to see him play again.
Not to make it like the Matty Longstaff podcast, because obviously we've just played West Ham, but like I always find it a strange one, because obviously he's got ability. A lot of people say that he used to be rated above his brother Sean before they both broke through. But do we think that he's that good of a player that we should be playing him all the time, or just circumstance that we need to be playing him because we want to keep him at the club? It's a strange one. It's like Johnny just said. It's like sort of a chicken and egg scenario where do we play him because we want him to sign a contract, but we're not going to play him until he signs the contract. It's a strange one.
Well, yes, welcome back to Can It Get the Longstaff podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today. I mean, the one nice thing about that is at least he will be playing in a black and white shirt again next season, even if it is in Italy. It's one of those things. I don't know. It's really hard to talk about the Matty Longstaff situation, but there'll be people who have opinions that he's not good enough. There's people who think he's the best thing since sliced bread. But yeah, speaking of the best thing since sliced bread, Jared Bowen finally got a game at Newcastle. What do we think of him, Matty? We'll go to you.
I think he isn't exactly a world beater. I think when we found ourselves linked with him, that we were just desperate for any sort of attack and play to come into the club. I think that's why so many people just sign Jared Bowen. Don't get me wrong, he seems like a good player. I watched him quite a bit in the Championship with Hull, and he did score a lot of goals and assisted quite a bit as well. But watching him today, obviously he assists the first goal. That's obviously part down to Jamal Lascelles missing the ball. But there was some good crosses from deep with his left foot. His corners were good. It's not exactly like a winger that's going to beat a man or anything like that, but he seems like a solid player, and it would just seem like our luck that he had a part to play in the first goal, really.
Yeah. It's just one of, again, it's like Bestie was saying with tempting fate. It's just likely that would happen. Unfortunately, didn't happen for Andy Carroll because I think too many people mentioned it. But it was an interesting first half, Johnny. What did you make of the situation with the referee? There was a lot of big challenges coming in from West Ham. Do you think Newcastle were fairly unlucky?
Yeah, it's I don't know. There's they have a couple of players that are willing to put themselves about. I think West Ham. Antonio was putting himself about everywhere. You've got Rice that I think you mentioned earlier. He seems to step it up when he comes against Newcastle, and I don't know if that's in part that he reads his mentions on Twitter before he comes to Newcastle and sees what we're saying about him. But yeah, he seems to throw himself about. Souček's, I was surprised by how much he came into the game towards the end of it as well. He's a big lad, but he's got the old bit of Peter Crouch is about him that he can bring the ball down well. I know he's a midfielder but he was getting in the box right at the end, diving headers and all over the place. So
the finish was good. The finish for his goal was very good.
Yeah, he did that really well. I thought, on a turn.
He was surprised by him. I saw him. He should have got a couple the other night as well. He had one, the dodgy, VAR decision that went against him. But he was throwing himself around all over the place. And I think they're just a physical team, I think, when they want to be. And I think they had to impose themselves against Newcastle today because they're in a relegation battle, and they've got to sort of impose themselves on the opposition to get what they want out of the match in the end.
Do you think it was a bad performance from the ref today, Bestie? Do you think Pawson was it? It was Pawson, wasn't it?
Pawson,
it was. Yeah.
What did you rate?
There were a few. I mean, the first big one I can think of was the Shelvey penalty shout in the first half, which it hit. I forget whose arm it was now.
Ogbonna, I think.
Ogbonna, yeah.
I was thinking Ogbonna, but I thought, does he even play for West Ham? My shocking at the minute. I've just watched a game and I can't remember. That was one of those ones where I think, I mean, his arm's slightly out, but it's by his side and it's come at me at pace. And I think if you get that given against you, then you're very disappointed with it. So I don't think he was any worse than a lot of other referees today, to be honest with you. It was, I guess, like Johnny said, West Ham are quite a physical side, and we saw and Andy Carroll got penalised an awful lot when he came on because it's a bit of Amiobi syndrome for me. Is it the way he goes up, or is it just because he's Andy Carroll, the referee thinks, well, he's probably hurting there a little bit. So I don't think it was as bad as it was made out to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I know it's not nice to talk about, but you mentioned the Souček goal. Was that more sloppy defending from us, Matty?
6-1 half doesn't either. Well, no, that's a total lie. I was going to say 6-1 half doesn't the other, and say, oh no, it's a good goal, but bad defending. I'd lean towards bad defending in terms of the balls came up. It's a good ball in. Obviously, Rice has been lost, and he's cannoned a header off the crossbar. But it's that reaction to the crossbar being hit. Lascelles sort of dies off, but I don't think he's expecting a player like Souček, and that's no disrespect to Souček, to hit it on the 10 the way he did. It flew in. It's a good finish, don't get me wrong, but I think both our goals were our doing rather than quality from West Ham, and that's not me being horrible at West Ham. You know, they stayed in the game and stuff, but I think the second goal we fell asleep a little bit from the set piece.
I think my thing with the second goal was more the winning of the header at the back post, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I think Souček, the way the ball comes from Lascelles, kind of got to turn, see where it's going, whereas it's coming towards Souček, so he hasn't got that extra kind of Lascelles doesn't have the kind of the same amount of time to react. You'd like to see him kind of closing down a bit quicker, but yeah, I think it was they've been crafted at the back post, maybe that Rice beats in the air. I think that's where if you clear that, then the whole thing doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that we're actually talking about Dubravka for a change, but it's just testament to the fact that we've not actually conceded that many. But Johnny, do you think he was left exposed again today? Was it the usual stuff?
He definitely was for the first goal. I don't, as soon as Antonio's within the 6-yard box, I don't think there's anything, and he has Lascelles still around and in front of him, so there's nothing much that Dubravka can do about that. And on a corner, I suppose he came out for quite a lot and caught a lot and punched a lot on all the other corners. It's just that one, there were so many people in his 6-yard box that he didn't have the time to come out and grab it, or didn't have the time to close Souček down. I think he was probably relying on Lascelles to do that for him, and that was touched on. Lascelles had to turn and face, and Souček was coming onto the ball. So I don't think Dubravka, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything particularly spectacular. He didn't have many real saves to make. It was just a matter of commanding his box, I think. And I think he did that well, apart from what was handed to him on that Souček goal.
I thought he did well. That one where Bowen got his toe to it, and he had
that was a fantastic save. That was a fantastic save.
That was a very good one. Yeah.
I think from the angle the camera was, it looked like it sort of just came through to him, but the angle changed dramatically when Bowen.
Was it Bowen or was it Yarmolenko? Because I'm sure there was one from Yarmolenko that he fired at him.
The volley. Yarmolenko volleyed from
towards the end. Yeah,
that was. I mean, it was a good save. Don't get me wrong, very good save. More of a straight at him, and he's palmed it up in the air. But the one Bestie was on about, ball comes in. I think it was from Creswell, and then Bowen's got a toe on it, and it's dramatically changed the angle of the shot. And he just managed to save one with his feet. It was a great reaction save.
Yeah, that was a good save as well.
I think that one Bowen's only 6-7 yards out when he gets to it as well, so he doesn't have, and it's coming quick. Dubravka doesn't have a great deal of time to kind of get his feet right and get it out. So if it goes in, it's kind of, you think it's gone through him a little bit, but he does well to rearrange his feet. It's a good save.
Yeah, very good.
He's still a quality keeper, despite the mistake that we saw against Villa. Unluckily for him today, it wasn't his own mistake. It was just the defence letting him down. But we did see a quick response. Steve Bruce ran into the dressing room, pressed a button, and a high-frequency noise came out, which sent John Joe Shelvey into overdrive by the looks of things. Bestie, I mean, where did that come from for Shelvey's? What happened?
It was marauding, wasn't it? It reminded us a little bit. I'm going to show me age here, but Sol Campbell in the 1998 World Cup, I'm pretty sure I'll be the only one that can remember this, but every game Sol played in that World Cup, there'd be a run he went on where he picked the ball up deep, played a couple of 1-2s maybe, and ended up in the opposition's box. I don't think anything ever came of them. But it was a bit like that. Shelvey picked it up deep, and I like how he took the ball off Gale, because Gale's, you can see, wants to take it on, but Shelvey's in far the better position. He's got momentum. He's kind of square on with the goal, so it's a good finish as well.
Yeah, Johnny, what was going through Fornell's mind when he was trying to claim it was offside when he was playing him on by about 10 yards?
I don't know. I don't think anything was going through his mind. Yeah, it was a bizarre. I was a bit worried when it. Obviously, you don't see Fornell's when it's closer up. It's only when you see the wide shot, and it's like the worry. I think you obviously talk about every time you talk about a goal is that the VAR is going to spend 10 minutes. But I think as soon as VAR sees Fornell's, it's like, there we go. That's all fine. But yeah, I was worried for a minute. But yeah, like you say, it was some great interplay between the players. Joelinton was involved a bit, his touch into Shelvey as well. But I think Joelinton played. I've seen in the replies when
careful.
The replies when the Twitter account tweeted out the full-time score was that Joelinton's got to be dropped for the next match. But I think that move off to the left-hand side, and it was good to see Emil Heskey in the studio, who obviously he went through massive, goalless runs, and he got pushed out to the left a lot. And he said it really helped him sometimes getting pushed out to the left, because that reliance on you to get the goals disappears a little bit. And I think with Gale coming into the team, that reliance on Joelinton disappears a bit, and he's still there, and he had some nice, neat touches. And I think it's just that last, whether it's the final pass or the final shot, that's the thing that always seems to let him down. It's when there's that ball that he can play through, or there's that, we saw it against I can't remember where he scuffed his side foot in one of the other matches.
Sheffield,
yeah. It's when that last bit of pressure's on him, he just falls to pieces, it seems like. But you shift him out to the left, and some of his interchanges with Saint-Maximin and Almiron were just really neat and tidy, I think. And so I wouldn't mind seeing him out there a bit longer. But like we said, we got Lazaro has not had a real chance to play in there, and if there's a few matches left, he might, fancy coming into the left, and Richie's coming back into the team a little bit as well. So just keep him away from that centre forward spot a bit longer. And it's not his fault. He's a £40 million player, and he probably didn't pick the number 9 shirt. But I think those two decisions have put a massive weight of expectation on him that he just hasn't lived up to so far.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? And thank you, Johnny, for pointing out that there was some fantastic Emil representation on a national TV station today. So thank you for that. But yeah, Matty, Joelinton, do you think that this is a good move for him?
Going
Not
out
Newcastle,
wide?
I mean going out wide.
Going out wide, yeah. Look, it's a strange one. I have so many friends who are supporters of different clubs, and they'll mention that, he looks all right, he looks tidy out wide, and all that stuff. But then there's a cynical part of me who'll go, yeah, but he was bought to score goals. But like Johnny said, he didn't choose the price tag. He didn't choose to have the number 9 shirt. And at his old club, he did play out wide. He does look much tidier, controlling the ball out wide and exchanging with the midfield. But I'm not too sure. I think our options are limited there anyway. So at the end of the day, who do you play instead of him? I mean, I know you can shuffle the pack. I mean, Bruce likes to switch the wingers, likes to put Almiron on the right and Maxi on the left, and just switch it all around during the game. But right now, he's the best we've got, really. So I guess he's going to play there anyway. I mean, who do we bring in? Atsu. Who do we bring? Atsu, and then Lazaro's there. Lazaro again. Bestie touched on this earlier. He said, "Do we know if he's a wing back or a winger?" He said himself he's a winger. He doesn't like to play a full back. So I guess that's the only option we have, to play him instead. But
you shouldn't threaten us with that sexy football that Atsu could bring to the squad, man. I mean, I just got a bit hot and sweaty there thinking about him losing the ball for the 6th time. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a mixed review for Joelinton today. I think there's a certain crowd of people, my dad included in this, who just do not want to see him do anything. He could score a hat-trick and people would find fault that he didn't score a 4th. So I think it's a thankless task. But I do like the idea that there's a rumour mill of Joelinton things going around. I mean, I've heard that he hired Steve Bruce, actually. So that's just it's part of the problem, Joelinton is. Lads, we always do a star player. So today I think it's going to be less obvious than just going for Saint-Maximin. But Johnny, I'll start with you. Who are you picking for today's star player?
If he'd have played the full match, I think I'd have gone for Isaac Hayden without a doubt. But I think because of, I think it's hard to pick him. So I think given that he scored the equaliser and he was involved in a few bits and pieces, I'll probably go for John Joe Shelvey from today.
Yeah, Matty, what are you going for?
Well, I'm glad you didn't come to me first, because otherwise I'd have felt right on the spot there. It's a strange one. Obviously in a 2-2 draw. Maximum didn't have his greatest of games, but we can forgive him for that, for being so amazing the last 4 games. But I'm probably gonna have to agree with Johnny. Shelvey didn't really put a foot wrong. Scored his goal when the opportunity presented himself. So yeah, I'm just gonna go for Shelvey.
Yeah, I thought you might have had it written down in your notes there. You were saying how
I did. Let's have a look. Hang on a second. 2 seconds. Have a look. No, I didn't. No,
it's just note, is it? Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Bestie, what we having?
I'm kind of tossing and turning between 2 and 3, to be honest with you. Like, I think Shelvey was, especially for that second goal, did really, really well. I thought Joelinton played well. I like him playing deeper. I'm going to say Almiron, even though nothing worked for him really in the second half. But I'm going to say Almiron. Actually, hang on a second.
I'm with you on Almiron. To be fair, he was going to be my choice.
Always smiling though.
I like Almiron for this game because it was his 8th goal of the season. I think that in terms of carrying on a run of form by getting a few goals now, he's proved a lot of his doubters wrong. And I know his goal against Bournemouth was just spectacular. But I think in this game, he was there on the end of it, and it's just one of those. I just like him.
Speaking about my notes, by the way, I actually made it. Here we go. Second note. I actually wrote down something about Almiron. I was like,
"Oh, go on."
Here it goes. Almiron, like his pace. He's obviously a quick lad, and when he first came into this team, like there was that game against Huddersfield. I think it was his debut where he sped off away from Tommy Smith and got brought down, red card. He did the same against Southampton. Ward-Prowse brought him down. Is it the fact that Alan St. Maximin is in our team that everyone will look slow next to Alan St. Maximin? But I just feel like Almiron doesn't use his pace at all now. I mean, I think he runs at defenders, but you never see him knock the ball past them like he used to last year? And I don't know whether anyone's thought that ever. Like, just thought, he doesn't seem as quick as he used to be.
There was a bit towards the end where they passed it down the line and he was up against Cresswell. And I thought he's going to beat Cresswell to this ball, and he just didn't. And it was towards the end of the match as well. So I thought maybe he's just knackered. So
maybe that's when I made my note. Maybe that's when I made my brilliant.
Mind you, Matty, I refuse to believe that you had all of that written down just there.
I swear, I'll send you the file. I mean,
I'll send you the screenshot on Twitter after this just to prove it. I mean, actually, I was going to give Almiron star man, but then I remembered his haircut and how much I absolutely despise that haircut that he's got going on. It's like, for someone who really wants a haircut, to make that your haircut when you come back from this break, it's as you can tell, I'm really annoyed at these things. But it was an interesting game. But I think one thing that I'd like to touch on is just comparing it to the Bournemouth game. I think that, Bestie, do you think that West Ham were obviously doing what Bournemouth should have been doing, which is fighting for it a bit more?
I think so. Yeah, they're applying pressure a bit higher up the pitch, which worked well for them. The goal, the West Ham's first goal notwithstanding, I thought the first half hour or so Newcastle looked really, really good, dangerous. I think I was touching earlier how good a move it was for Newcastle's first goal as well. Some really like neat little short passes, 1-2 touches. A great run by Kraft down the line when St. Maximin picked it up just on the overlap, and it's a good ball. It's a good finish. It was a really good goal, and Newcastle looked as if they were trying to play more like that, more like they did against Bournemouth midweek. West Ham, I thought, defended really, really poorly to start with. But in the second half, you could see they were defending more from the front. You can see how much work the front couple of lines were doing. I mentioned earlier the passing move Newcastle had, which was about 20-yard passes covering a space of about 10 yards towards the end of the second half there, and West Ham were just closing everything down. There was nothing on. In the end, I think Shelvey pumped it along, and West Ham centre-half picked it up, and that was that. Like, but West Ham were certainly more effective defensively than Bournemouth were. I mean, Bournemouth conceded, was it 5 yesterday or 6 against
5 yesterday? Yeah,
it was 5. So I mean, it doesn't take much.
Doesn't look good, does it? Just thinking about it.
That was something that surprised me during the Bournemouth game. Actually, was how much the commentators were saying, "Our Bournemouth, the goose is cooked now. They're finished. They're level on points. I think maybe there's 1 point behind Watford. Sorry, at the moment. So there's a lot of football left to play there. But West Ham, looking at the way they played today, the way they played against Chelsea midweek, and the fixtures they've got left, I think they'll stay up.
They won't go down.
I can't say too much. They've got Norwich, Villa, Watford to play. I think Burnley is a result they can, again, they get a result in as well. So yeah, I think West Ham will be all right.
Yeah, Johnny, do you think they were there for the taking today? If we'd applied a bit more ourselves.
If we'd applied ourselves a bit more, but then I think, like we said earlier, maybe they're just West Ham have too much to play for compared to what we have. And I think they're really fighting for it. And I think for all the criticisms David Moyes gets when he was at Manchester United, he does try and he is quite good, albeit apart from Sunderland, in these scenarios and situations usually. And he did it with West Ham last time around when he went there. So
yeah.
I think he's really got stuck into them, I think, and told them, be sensible. And they've got the players, I think. Like Yarmolenko is a good player, Antonio's good, Rice is good, Fabianski's a good goalkeeper. So I think they, by rights, probably shouldn't be down there to begin with. So I think, they were just, I don't think they were really there for the taking in the same way that Bournemouth were.
Yeah, certainly helps when the manager doesn't say that you're involved in a relegation scrap before the season begins as well. I think with David learning from his mistakes there, Moyes. I know it seems a horrible, torturous thing to think about playing Man City again so soon, but Matty, does that noise represent your feelings about the midweek game?
Yeah, without sounding horrible, one of my pals came around to watch the match today, and I even said, like, okay, if you want to come around and watch the match on Wednesday, feel free, but I kind of want to ignore it, to be honest. Like, it just seems like one of those games where, you're up against a fantastic side who seem like they've got their backs up from losing the title, and we watched what they did to Liverpool last week, and I feel like I'd just be watching the Kevin De Bruyne show, but we never know with Newcastle United. That cup game wasn't great. That's a bit of a overstatement. Like, we'll see what happens. Obviously, I'll find it hard not to watch it. I will be watching it, but we'll see. I mean, Man City away has never been fun to us, except for that one time we beat them under Pardew in the cup. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, Bestie, what do you reckon for this game? Is it going to be a case of shutting up shop again, or do we just go for it in this one?
What do we do?
What do we do?
The mind of Steve Bruce right there.
Yeah, toss a coin. I do. I mean, without wanting to kind of get too bogged down in the whole Bruce thing, I feel a bit sorry for him in that, regardless of what he does, if he doesn't get a result, he'd be criticised. We saw what happened in the cup. It was a 2-0 defeat, which a really, really stupidly given away penalty and an open goal missed at 1-0 could have changed the game. If you go and attack Man City, the likelihood is you get absolutely annihilated. So what do? Go for it. You got abused for sitting back this last time. So just go for it. Play 4 or 5 strikers.
Okay, well, it remains to be seen. But Johnny, do you think it's been a good week for Bruce with the Manager of the Month nomination in there and stuff? Do you think he'll be a bit more relaxed about things now, or are you quite sad for the fact that he can't celebrate these things?
I think he'll mark it up. He's made some good decisions, made some good tactical decisions. And like we said, moving Joelinton out to the left is a good decision, and he's obviously done that. Moving to a back 4, and like breathing maybe some confidence into Emil Kraft. Maybe you got to praise him for those things. He's still not the manager that most of us probably want to be in charge of Newcastle. But I think at times like this, you got to give him his dues, and I think he has got a good restart so far. So he's obviously deserving of his nomination. He probably won't win it because other people have had better starts and things like that. So, but yeah, he's done well. I don't really want to praise him, but you have to sometimes. So yeah, well done, Steve.
Yeah,
you've got a tire of the sort of. I know it's probably been said on this medium and plenty of others that the comparison with Rafa, that's always going to happen. But it's got to this stage of the season now, and it feels like everyone's willing him to get more points than Rafa. Even the commentator was like, if he gets 3 points a day, he's going to have more points than Rafa ever did.
It's level, isn't it? If it's 3 points, so he's 3 points away from topping it now, I think.
And I just feel like as much as everyone, I don't have to speak about what everyone thinks of Rafa, but it's getting a bit tedious now. I mean, Bruce does deserve praise to a certain extent, definitely. But like Johnny said, he's not exactly my number one choice to be at the club to take us forward. But I'm just sick of those comparisons, man. It's doing my head in.
Tiresome, isn't it? It's just, it'll never go away, unfortunately. The 3 years we were spoiled with Rafa, but yeah, just getting nostalgic now. I thought we'd end on a lighter note. It might be a lighter note, actually, Bestie. I was going to ask you if Emil Kraft was a craft ale, what would he taste of?
Oh, I think he'd be one that you kind of grew into, something really hoppy, maybe.
Like a
very
blonde.
Like a nice session. Where to start with, you think, oh, this I'm not having this. And then after about 4 or 5 of them, you think, actually, this is all right. It's not going to get you over the line. You're not going to kind of on a 3.8. But what about been drinking here? That's 4.1%. So you'd be wild beer by Pogo, whatever that is.
Nice.
All right. Is that a hashtag spawn there, Bestie? Was that gifted?
The next one's going to be.
Oh, okay, fair enough. There we go. Just drop a few mentions in there. Lads, I think we've exhausted all we can from a 2-2 draw. Johnny, are we happy with that? Is that just
happy as you can be given the performance and how the match played out? So yeah, just have to get 3 points against City.
There we go. I think we should end it there, just with that prediction. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us, and keep watching the channel because there's more on the way. Cheers.